Hey, Whippersnappers! Welcome to TGSN's retrospective look back at the first season of the Little League. I am your host, Tortimer the Grey, and today I am joined by my good friend, Boots.
Hi, everybody! Thanks for having me, Tortimer!
No problem at all, Boots. Excited to have you here to help me kick off this look back at the historic first season of the Little League. For those of our viewers at home who may not be familiar with what exactly the Little League is, why don't you give us a quick rundown?
Well, Tortimer, the Little League was a Pokemon Draft League put together by the TGSN that focused on the Little Cup tier. The league first came together in 2017 and consisted of 8 teams which fought for the right to move into the playoffs and eventually the championship.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that succinct breakdown. As Boots mentioned, the Little League is a Pokemon Draft League, which means that all of the competitors on each of the teams was drafted by their respective coaches. The Little League used a snaking draft, which means that each of the 8 teams got to pick 1 through 8 and then 8 through 1, making it as fair as possible for each of the teams, no matter which randomly selected position they were given, to be able to get as many of the competitors as they would like. We'll be going into the details of what Pokemon were drafted by each coach as we go through this first episode of our retrospective look back. But suffice it to say that each of our 8 coaches were given the opportunity to draft 12 very talented Pokemon to their teams, and given the choice of picking up 1 undrafted free agent throughout the course of the season, and making a maximum of 2 trades with one of their fellow coaches.
All this comes together to make an extremely exciting tournament with some of our most talented Pokemon competitors available.
That's right, Boots. I think it's about time that we take our competitors back in time to the first week of the Little League and show them exactly how all of that played out.
In week 1, as with every week of our 7-week regular season, our teams went head-to-head to earn points which would eventually allow them to enter the playoffs at the end of the season.
Yes, because only the top 4 point-earning teams would even have the opportunity to move into the playoffs for a chance at the championship bout. In week 1, we had some very exciting battles, starting with the Detroit Deinos versus the Goldenrod Gliscors, the Charlotte Syclants versus the Tohjo Torterras, the Geosenge Carbinks versus the Wichita Wynauts, and finally the Mossdeep Magikarps versus the Deerfield Deerlings.
Only those teams which come out victorious even have the opportunity to earn points each week, and they are graded points based on the number of Pokemon they have remaining on their team once their opponent's teams have been defeated.
And now it's time for us to take a closer look at those teams that we are going to be watching throughout the course of this season. First, we'll look at the Detroit Deinos, who happen to be the last team in the draft order, and the 12 Pokemon team that they were able to compile under their coach Update.
In the first round, Update drafted Litwick. In the second round, drafted Shelder. In the third round, drafted Ferroseed. In the fourth round, drafted Dwebble. In the fifth round, drafted Axew. In the sixth round, they drafted their team mascot, Deino. In the seventh round, they drafted Krogunk. In the eighth round, they drafted Bronzor. In the ninth round, they drafted Cubone. The 10th round, they drafted Paris. The 11th round, they drafted Blitzel, and then in a surprise twist, in the 12th round, they picked up Cosmog.
Cosmog's an interesting case, actually, because it's the only Little Cup eligible Pokemon which can evolve into a legendary. However, it does not have much offensive capabilities, so it'll be interesting to see how Update and his Deinos managed to use it throughout the course of the season.
It was anybody's guess which 6 Pokemon Update planned to bring from his 12 draft picks into that first week. But first, before we find out who he brought, shouldn't we look at who his opponent was?
Absolutely, Boots. Let's take a closer look then at the Goldenrod Gliscors. Now, conversely, the Gliscors were the first in the draft pick order, and so they got to pick their absolute favorite right out of the bat, and their coach, Codman, decided to go with Anorith in the first round. In the second round, he went with Lileep, so going for those Hoenn fossils there. The third round, he picked Inkay. In the fourth round, they picked up Doduo. In the fifth round, they picked up Surskit. In the sixth round, Wailmer. The 7th round, they picked up Bulbasaur. The 8th round, they picked up Larvesta. In the 9th round, they picked up Marini. In the 10th round, they picked up Dratini. In the 11th round, they picked up Alolan Sandshrew. And in the 12th round, they picked up Krabby.
A lot of interesting Pokemon on this team, several that have had very good luck in Little Cup in the past. It'll be very interesting to see which Pokemon Coach Codman plans to bring into the first week's battles.
It absolutely will be interesting, and I think it's time that we and our viewers jump into that first matchup of the week to see just how that played out.
Absolutely, Tortimer, let's kick it off. Today we have Update and his Deinos and Codman and his Gliscors going up against each other, and they both start with Bug-type set of Pokemon.
Absolutely, you see Surskit and Dwebble being used very frequently coming in to set up those hazards, and you're seeing why. You've got the Surskit setting up the webs, which is going to give it its entire team a speed advantage, and then you've got Dwebble coming in setting up the rocks and now those spikes, which is going to give a nice chip damage every time Codman decides he needs to switch out a member of his team. Dwebble hanging out with a sturdy butt, going to go down to the final Scald there from Surskit. And then Cubone comes in.
Now, Cubone's a tough competitor. Slow down is going to be kind of difficult for it. Ooh, and especially in the face of a Whalmer here.
That's right, Whalmer's got a lot of HP, doesn't take much from those entry hazards, but ooh, a hard rock slide there, going to do some good damage. Throwing up the Water Spout. Unfortunately, Water Spout is more powerful the more HP you have, and unfortunately, Whalmer took quite a beating there, so the Ground-type Scar able to hang it in there and get Whalmer off the field.
Now we've got the first draft pick, Anorith, coming in, and Finns is going to throw up that, ooh, the rapid spin. That's a good move.
Absolutely. Codman knows that if he wants to keep switching in and out, he needs to get all those hazards off the field, and he brings in Anorith to do just that. Doesn't accomplish much else, but that's going to be a big turn in favor of the Gliscors if I know anything. Then Peter Parker comes back in, uses its Scald, and gets rid of the Cubone. Charlie, the Krogunk, switches in then and is going to get slowed down and hit with an Ice Beam.
Oh no, a freeze! Oh, that's gonna be a tough one for Update to deal with for sure.
Absolutely, a frozen Pokemon. That's a detriment to any team, and it seems as if Update has decided, well, doesn't really know what else Krogunk's gonna be able to accomplish today, so leaving Krogunk on the field as opposed to switching in another Pokemon and taking an automatic damage. Let's see what Update's gonna do to bring this back. Atlas switches in the Deinos, their team mascot. It's now 3-4. Ooh, it's now 4-2 as Surskit takes down Deinos. Peter Parker doing good work for Codman and his team. Bombshell the Shelter then comes in, gets hit with a Signal Beam there, doing good damage. Bombshell going to get that Shell Smash going. Now, Shell Smash can be quite dangerous.
It absolutely can. A Pokemon like this can really turn the tides, and oh, coming right in, getting the speed boost from the Shell Smash, able to take out the Surskit, no trouble at all.
Absolutely. Bombshell here can be very dangerous. Let's see if Codman can stop the tide of the late game smash here. Oh, down goes the Inkay, then Salad, the Bulbasaur. Hopefully Bulbasaur can withstand it. Oh, but the Icicle Spear is going to be tough to do, and ooh, in 3 goes down.
Bombshell's looking pretty tough. I don't know if Larvesta can pull this out. Codman was looking very dominant early on in the match, but it seems like Update was just waiting for his opportunity.
Absolutely, these late game sweeps are really something that you can't even really see coming, and look at that, Larvesta getting a good leech life up. Oh, but Bombshell just hangs on. Is going to get the Rock Smash and finish it out, bringing a victory for Week 1, and the Detroit Deinos gaining 2 points towards their playoff hopes. 2 points, they have 2 Pokemon remaining, and they won, so 2 points added to Update's team's score. Wow. That was quite the battle. What did you think of all of that?
Well, it was really exciting going back and forth there. Codman, as we said, him and his Gliscors had a very early advantage. Peter Parker, the Surskit, really being dominant, taking out, I think, 4 of the other team's Pokemon. And getting those webs up really seemed to be helping Codman and his Gliscors out quite a lot.
Yeah, but then you got to keep your eye out. You got to keep your eye for those late game sweeps because those can be devastating. It went from a 2-4 match to a 2-0 match because Update just came in and Bombshell was able to pull out that victory for him. So had to sacrifice some points early on to get his team to a point where he thought he could pull off that endgame sweep. So unfortunately, he's only going to pull 2 points out of this week, although Bombshell is going to take a number of points into the MVP race, which will be awarded at the end of the regular season. So yeah, a very good battle between Codman and his Goldenrod Gliscors and Update and the Detroit Deinos. A very exciting first match for us this week. Let's take a look now at what the next matchup is going to be in Week 1.
The second battle of Week 1 saw the Charlotte Syclants versus our very own Torterras.
Yes, it's hard for us to claim any unbiased status in this particular battle, Boots, because both you and I are members of the Tohjo Torterras. I, the coach, and you are star player.
Oh, Tortimer, you're too much. Now, let's start off by taking a closer look at the team that Coach Shunnersaurus has put together for the Charlotte Syclants.
Absolutely, let's do that. In round 1, the Syclants drafted Drillbur. In round 2, they drafted Froakie. In round 3, they drafted Magby. In round 4, they drafted Elekid. In round 5, they drafted Phantump. In round 6, they drafted Joltik. In round 7, they drafted Cranidos. In round 8, they drafted Remoraid. In round 9, they drafted Slowpoke. In round 10, they drafted Chimchar. In round 11, they drafted Skrelp. And in their final round, round 12, they drafted Sewaddle.
A really interesting selection of Pokemon here, Tort. They've got a lot of good power and some decent bulk and setup. It's going to be very interesting to see how they shake out this season.
Absolutely it is, Boots. Absolutely it is. And speaking of an interesting selection of Pokemon, we should take a closer look now at what we worked with this season. The Torterras had a fairly decent draft as well, if I do say so myself.
Oh, Tort. In this first round, you drafted me. In the second round, we drafted Staryu. In the third round, we drafted Snubbull. In the fourth round, we drafted Mudbray. In the fifth round, Fungus. In the sixth round, Scraggy. In the seventh round, Tortuga. In the eighth round, Ghastly. In the ninth round, we picked up Torchic. In the 10th round, Archon. In the 11th round, Houndour. And for our final pick, you picked up Mantike.
And again, we've got an interesting selection of bulk and power here. I guess we'll see how yours truly did throughout the course of the season, but for now, let's take a look back at what we did in Week 1, shall we?
Here we go!
Alrighty, the Week 1 battle between Shunosaurus and his Syclants versus me and my Torterras kicks off with our very own Boots versus Patch the Sewaddle. Boots, what do you think of coming into each battle?
Well, I really try to hype myself up and do what comes best to me. I move quick and I hit hard. And try to do that first with the fake out on the first turn. Unfortunately, Shunosaurus and Patch saw that coming, had the Protect ready for us, but I was able to come in on the next turn and get that Fury Swipes going, almost taking out Sewaddle.
Yep, weren't quite able to take him down, and unfortunately the Sticky Webs was getting set up there, but you did take out Patch on the next turn. Then the Plug, the Elekid, comes in, and we bring you on out, and Morel, the Sewaddle, comes in. Gonna get that speed lower from the Sticky Webs, and a very fortunate switch out for us because the Plug gonna come in with that all-out Plummeling, the Z-move, a new addition to the metagame this generation, and not do much damage to Morel, but get frozen, just like the Krogunk in the first battle of this week. Another frozen Pokemon on the field. I choose to switch Morel out at this point, bring in Snubbull, Pedaling, and get the Intimidate up on the Plug. Pedaling is going to take that Ice Punch very well, then take a Thunder Punch very well, and going to throw up the Earthquake here, which is going to take the Plug off the field, so racking up a point for Pedaling there in the MVP race. Then Sharpshooter, the Remoraid, going to switch in. Remoraid, not a Pokemon you often see, but going to come in at full health and use that Water Spout. Wailmer tried to use that in Battle 1 and did not have the health to really make it effective, and going to take down Pedaling there. Ray, then, our shiny Staryu, switches in, forces out the Remoraid, and going to use the Rapid Spin on Frubbles, getting rid of the Sticky Webs for the remainder of the battle. Then going to tank a Hydro Pump there very well, throw up the Thunderbolt, and finish off Froakie. So Ray doing some good work here for us as well, taking a couple of Pokemon out. Magby then switching in, Ray's going to switch back out, and Morel's going to come in as a bit of a sacrifice play. Want to make sure that we can keep the Pokemon around that we need to keep around. Unfortunately, a frozen Pokemon, as we saw with Krogunk earlier, is not really an asset to the team. So Morel comes in. Unfortunately, Shunosaurus sees that coming and is going to take the opportunity to throw up the Belly Drum, which could prove detrimental to our strategies here.
Yes, absolutely. You see that Belly Drum allows Magby to even get through the defenses of Mudbray there, who's usually an extremely defensive Pokemon, and it goes down in one hit. Then I come in and attempt to take out Magby. Unfortunately, Magby is a very fast Pokemon, and so while we're able to get that fake out up, we are not able to outspeed on the next turn, and I go down to a Fire Punch.
You did what you could, Boots. You did what you could. Unfortunately, that was a mistake on my part, letting that Magby get set up and leaving Morel out on the field. Should have taken more of an offensive standpoint. But we're now 2-2. We've got Dig Dug versus Casper, but Casper switches out, brings Ray in. Ray's going to take an Earthquake there very well, and then throw up, well, nothing of its own, apparently. Drillbur is going to outspeed on the next turn, and Ray is going to go down, leaving Casper to try and clean up here. Throws up the Energy Ball, does really good damage. Unfortunately, Dig Dug's going to survive it, and with the Mold Breaker is going to fight through Ghastly's Levitate there and finish us off. So, Shunosaurus is going to take 2 points for his team this week in Week 1. We went down, but I think we did a good battle, and It'd been a little while since you and I had worked together in a little cup. We had taken a couple of years off prior to this, so a little bit of rust on those shingles maybe, but I think we might be back bigger and better than ever. What do you think, Boots?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of stuff for us to take out of this battle. A lot of learning experiences, and, well, the Shunosaurus and the Syclants fought valiantly and did a very good job. I think there are a lot of things that we can probably do better next time as well, and we will see what happens in week 2 with our team.
Absolutely. Congratulations to Shunosaurus and his Syclants, doing a lot of good work there. Magby and Drillbur taking out a lot of Pokemon, and so good work to them. We'll see how they shake up in the MVP race once we finish out looking at the rest of the battles, which I think we should do right now.
All right, going into battle number 3 of week 1, we see the Geosenge Carbinks up against the Wichita Wynauts. And I think before we get into the match, we should take a closer look at the Pokemon that the Geosenge Carbinks drafted.
Absolutely. The coach of the Carbinks, Talon, put together a very interesting team of Pokemon here, so it's only right that we take a closer look at them before we see which 6 he picked to take into action in week 1.
In the first round, the Carbinks drafted Chinchou. In the second round, Salandin. In the third round, Snivy. In the fourth round, Cottony. In the fifth round, Jupiter. In the sixth round, Stunky. In the seventh round, Rockruff. In the eighth round, Alolan Meowth. In the ninth round, Amara. In the 10th round, Baltoy. In the 11th round, Rufflet. And for their final pick, they picked Tyrant.
A very interesting selection of Pokemon here as well. Not a lot of bulk on this team, although they've got a couple of decently defensive Pokemon, but a lot of interesting power players, and so it'll be very interesting to see how they put this team together into a winning combination.
Yes, you know what they say, the best defense is a good offense.
I'm not sure if that's quite the saying, Boost, but I do think they have a couple of reasonably defensive Pokemon, and we will see just how well they hold up throughout the course of the season.
Now it's time for us to take a look at their competitor for this week, the Wichita Wynauts. Under Coach Mac, the Wynauts drafted a very interesting collection of Pokemon as well.
That's right. In fact, the Wynauts may have drafted some of the most notable Pokemon available in the Little Cup tiers, so it'll be very interesting to see how they turn out. In the first round, they drafted Pawniard. In the second round, they drafted Timber. In the third round, they drafted Frillish. In the fourth round, they drafted Ponyta. In the fifth round, they drafted Pumpkaboo. In the sixth round, they drafted Spinarak. In the seventh round, they drafted Spritzee. In the eighth round, they drafted Pick-a-Peck. In the ninth round, they drafted Corphish. In the 10th round, they drafted Munchlax. In the 11th round, they drafted Natu. And with their final pick, they chose Alolan Vulpix in the 12th round.
Yes, especially in their first round, they managed to pick up some very strong competitors in Pawniard, Timber, and Frillish.
Yes, Spinarak's also seen very frequently as a setup Pokemon. You've got Munchlax there, great special defense. Pick-a-Peck is one of those underused Pokemon that has great utility. Spritzee's very difficult to get through. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. The Wynauts here have a great mix of power and defense that might be very difficult for some teams to deal with. So we'll just kind of have to keep a close eye on this team as we move into the season.
And I think it's time that we all take a closer look at what these teams have to offer by seeing which Pokemon they chose to bring into week number 1 and seeing how they each fared.
Absolutely, Boots. We move into Battle 3 of Week 1 with Talon and his Carbinks up against Mac and his Wynauts. Bandit, the Salandin, coming out for the Carbinks, forcing out Timber. Squirt, then, the Frillish, coming in, taking that Toxic, which is going to be very difficult to deal with. Frillish tends to be a more defensive Pokemon, but that Toxic is really going to limit its capability going forward. The Ice Beam coming up from the Frillish into Bandit. Guessing Mac probably expected a switch there from Coach Talon. And Bandit sticking in, though, throwing up whatever it can up against the Frillish before that Scald finally comes out and going to take down the Salandin. Frillish taking that toxic damage. We'll have to see what Mac plans to do here. Probably going to be a switch out in our future. Yes, absolutely.
Munchlax then comes in, has great special defense, a good counter to Chinchou, and going to be throwing up what it can, but Oreo just going to be tanking that like you wouldn't believe.
Absolutely, Munchlax is one of the best special defensive Pokemon in the league. Great recovery and great ability to just tank those hits. And throwing up that Earthquake there has decent attack power to boot, especially after the curse that Mac had it set up. So down goes Chinchou.
Then comes in the Alolan Meowth with a nice fake out there. Munchlax may be great at special defense, but not so good at physical, and so going to be taking some hard hits there from the Meowth, especially after Meowth just stole its Eviolite.
Yes, but Munchlax coming back in with a hard hit of its own and taking Meowsy down to 5% before it goes out to the Alolan Meowth's claws. Then Tooth Decay, the Tyrant switches in. Unfortunately, Mac has a fairy type waiting in the wings, and Talon's going to start setting up that Dragon Dance. But, yep, there goes the Moonblast coming in from Mac's Spritzy Wilhelmina there. Unfortunately, then going to get switched out, so not able to finish off and get the point for itself in the MVP race. Squirt going to switch in, however, and use up that Scald to finish off the Dragon Danced Tyrant there. So Tyrant goes down. Squirt continuing to take that toxic damage, which was set up previously, though. Ruffle's then going to switch in and miss its U-turn. Oh, that's going to be a tough one for Talon to recover from. Oh, and the Will-O-Wisp is not going to help. Rufflet relies largely on its physical attack, so that's going to be a tough one. But Squirt then goes down to the poison damage, so that one's going to actually be counted for Saladin, who set up that status effect. And then Yavier is going to come in. Javier? Gonna come in and finish off the Rufflet. Puff the Cottony then switching in. Probably not the best matchup, being a grass type versus a flying type, and we see that there. Puff goes down to the Brave Bird from Yavier. That leaves Talon and the Carbinks just with that Alola Meowth, who did good work for them previously, but very low on health. Gonna throw up that Fake Out, though, and gonna be enough to take down Yavier, so that works out nicely for Meowsy. Then Timber gonna come in. Unfortunately, we got a type mismatch here, and yes, Meowsy's gonna go down to the superior fighting type there. That's gonna earn Mac and his Wynauts 3 points for week 1, as he managed to take down Talon and the Carbinks while retaining 3 Pokemon on his team. Yep, see, that's what getting extra bulky Pokemon is going to do for you there. Mac came in with Pokemon like Timber here, who has some decent bulk to it with a good balance of attack power. Spritzy, Frillish, Munchlax, all of these are Pokemon that can take some hits and deal them out. Helped him outlast Talon and the Carbinks a little bit and gain him 3 points there. Didn't have to sacrifice play as much, and was able to pull out the victory and get some good points on the board there. So far, that's going to put Mac and the Wynauts in the lead in the points battle by 1 point. Each of our previous 2 teams have won with only 2 Pokemon remaining. So, a good showing for the Wynauts. A lot of good possibilities coming from the Carbinks. It'll be interesting to see how both of these coaches adapt their play to their next week's opponents. And speaking of their next week's opponents, we should take a look at some of the other teams in the league and finish off with battle number 4. Battle number 4 is going to see Coach Adram's Mossdeep Magikarps versus Coach Selene's Deerfield Deerlings. Absolutely 2 strong competitors rounding us out this week with battle number 4. Let's take a closer look at what Coach Addy and his Mossdeep Magikarps were able to put together in this year's draft. It looks like Coach Adram was able to put together a very dominant team here in this season's draft with some very prominent Pokemon in the Little Cup scene. In the first round, he drafted Abra. In the second round, he drafted Mienfoo. In the third round, he drafted Magnemite. In the fourth round, he drafted Onyx. In the fifth round, they drafted Sandshrew. In the sixth round, Lickitung. In the seventh round, Ammonite. In the eighth round, Diglett. In the ninth round, Zigzagoon. In the 10th round, Alolan Grimer. In the 11th round, Wingull. In the 12th round, they picked up Rowlet. A very interesting collection of Pokemon indeed, Boots. It seems like, as you said, they were able to get some of the more dominant players in the Little Cup scene on this team. It'll be very interesting to see what Coach Addy plans on doing with them and what selection of this very interesting draft he will be bringing into battle this week. That brings us then to the final team in the Little League this season, and that is going to be Coach Selene's Deerfield Deerlings. They also managed to pick up a very interesting selection of Pokemon. In the first round, they were able to pick up Coughing, which was a personal blow and slight to me. In the second round, they picked up Volibee. In the third round, they picked up Honedge. In the fourth round, they picked up Growlithe. In the fifth round, they picked up Taillow. In the sixth round, they managed to snag Morello. In the seventh round, they picked up Sandygast. In the eighth round, Chespin. In the ninth round, Piplup. In the 10th round, Goomy. In the 11th round, Alolan Geodude. And in the 12th round, they managed to pick up Nosepass. Some very good bulk on this team as well, and some good power players too. They've got some good physically defensive, some good specially defensive Pokemon, and some good physical and special attacking Pokemon. So, a very interesting selection of Pokemon, some unconventional choices, but we will see throughout the season how Coach Selene is able to put them to good use. Yes, and without further ado, let's jump into battle number 4, the final battle for this week. Starting off this week, Coach Adram and his Magikarps lead off with their Onyx, as Selene Eleanor and her Deerlings lead off with Piplup. Stealth Rocks coming up from Grant as well as from Piplup, so Stealth Rocks on both sides of the field there, as the Onyx is going to lead off with an Earthquake there, doing decent but not too strong a damage versus the Piplup. Piplup striking back with the Scald, taking Grant all the way down to his Sturdy and removing the Berry Juice from play. That's right, that's going to be a tough place for Addy to be. Onix already losing its healing factor in the first couple of rounds, missing Piplup on that first bout of Rock Blast, but coming in with the second. Piplup managing to withstand it, though, and getting that next Scald Up. Ooh, taking down the Onix there. Piplup taking down the giant rock snake. Then Lord Helix switching in. Well, this will be a very interesting battle to see how us mere mortals stack up. Throwing up that Shell Smash, which we saw used to such great effect with the Deinos, but gonna go down immediately thanks to the Stealth Rocks removing any sturdy factor there and going out to the Skull from Piplup. So Piplup, an unconventional choice, doing really good work here at the beginning of week 1. Abra then coming in and finishing off the Piplup. Volibee switching in, taking that Stealth Rocks damage and taking a Dazzling Gleam from Kreia there. Let's see what they're going to be able to throw up. The knockoff, getting rid of the Sash, taking Kreia down to that Sash though. Nice thing about the Focus Sash, it still works before it's removed, and going to go down to the next Dazzling Gleam. So Volibee doing decent work there, getting Abra in range to go down. Let's see what happens here. Abra coming back out as Magnemite comes in. Addy does not want to sacrifice that Abra yet at this point. The Shadow Sneak, which would have surely finished it off, taking out Magnemite's Berry Juice there. Volt Switch doing good damage and going to bring Magnemite back out as Jabba, the Alolan Grimer, switching in there. The Sacred Sword doing reasonable damage considering Jabba picked up the Dark typing when it went to Alola, so doing more than it would have otherwise. The knockoff, though, doing much better damage up against the Ghost type there. So Jabba doing good work, finishing off the Ghost type Sandygast before it can really pull out any battling there.
Then we see Coughing come in, who's a usual team member of ours. We know how good this Pokemon can be physically, defensively. Throwing up that Will-O-Wisp, hoping to lower the attack of Jabba there, and taking hard damage from the Grimer.
Ooh, some very hard damage considering the bulk we usually see.
Yes, indeed. Pursuit then coming out, expecting to switch there. Will-O-Wisp unfortunately missing again. Not a lot of luck with that move from our competitors this week. And then Jabba going to take down the Coughing there with another knockoff.
Growlithe then going to switch in, get the Intimidate up, finally get an attack lower on this Jabba there. The Will-O-Wisp did not work, but finally getting a little bit of a nerf to that power. The knockoff coming in again doing great damage. Each of these Pokemon holding an item, so each new knockoff getting to do significant damage. Morning Sun then coming in as Growlithe's going to be healing up, not wanting to go out this early, healing back up to full. A great move there from Selene as the Poison Jab hits, doing less than half. Growlithe can take another one of those. The Shadow State coming in, though. Flare Blitz going to finish off Jabba, going to do a little bit of damage to the Growlithe, however. Selene is still down 2-3, but the odds are getting a little bit better. Abra does not take Stealth Rocks damage, unfortunately, and is going to outspeed the Growlithe to finish off that Pokemon. Then Honedge is going to switch in. Is Selene going to be able to get the Shadow Sneak off? No, Abra's coming back out. Addy is too smart to leave that in and give the easy kill. Shadow Sneak going to hit Magnemite. Thankfully, Magnemite is already missing its Berry Juice, but coming in with that hidden power, super effective, taking out the Honedge. Addy seems to have come prepared for all eventualities there. Selene got some good hits early on for sure, taking out two of the Pokemon immediately, but then Jabba, that Alolan Grimer, not a Pokemon you would typically expect to see coming in being so dominant, but coming in and doing good work and allowing Addy's other team components to do cleanup there.
Yep, absolutely. We had great Pokemon on both sides of the field. Seems like Addy was prepared for pretty much anything Selene could throw up, though.
Yeah, how you take your draft and the combinations you pulled, you know, that's all one component, but then it's the day of how you're able to put those pieces into action that really shows a coach's true colors. So, a great win there from Adaram and his Mossdeep Magikarps, a good showing from Selene Eleanor and her Deerlings, but that's going to give Addy and his Magikarps 3 points for the week as well. Managed to keep 3 Pokemon alive throughout the course of the battle, so that's going to put them tied with the Wichita Wynauts coming out of week 1. So a good showing, a very good showing from those two teams especially, but all of the teams this week did great. Those who won, those who did not. We are just in week 1 of a 7-week regular season, so it is anybody's game at this point. Things could change very rapidly. Not ridiculously high scores coming out. The highest scores obviously being 3 points to both the Magikarps and the Wynauts. A total possible score, obviously, of 6 points per week. So just hitting half potential here this week, and they're only 1 point ahead of their next lowest competitors as well. So that's going to wrap up our look at the battles from this week. We do have one more topic we want to cover, though, and that is the MVP standings coming out of week 1. We want to take a quick look at those Pokemon, which did exemplary work this week and managed to pull out points for themselves leading into week 2.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tortimer. We had a lot of strong competitors this week, and it would behoove us to take a look at who really did the best.
That's right, Boots. I'd say it's not a competition, but it is in fact a competition. And so let's take a look at those Pokemon who did exceptionally well this week. You guys will obviously remember from the last battle there, the Mossdeep Magikarps and Abra coming in with 3 kills and no deaths, which gives it 3 points leading into the MVP race here. A good strong start for any Pokemon.
We also then have to go back to battle number 1 for our next 2 entrants. From the Goldenrod Gliscors, we had Peter Parker the Surskit racking up 4 kills, but then going down itself for a grand total of 3 points in the MVP race.
That's right, a very strong showing from that Surskit. Didn't expect that kind of power coming out of it myself, but did very strong and unfortunately went down itself, which removes 1 point from its overall total. For each Pokemon gets a point for each Pokemon it takes out, but then loses a point for each time that it goes down throughout the course of the battle. So rounding out with 3 points, the same score as Abra, just a little different path of getting there. 4 knockouts for the Surskit. And then that brings us to our final entry for this week. And you guys will remember that late game sweep from Bombshell the Shelder, the Detroit Deinos pulling out the victory and racking up 4 points for itself this week. So a very strong showing from Bombshell the Shelder, a very dominant late game sweep, helping it rack up a lot of points, not going down itself, so getting credit for all 4 knockouts that it achieved, and taking 4 points out of week 1, which will make it our MVP leader in week 1. Now, the final MVP will not be awarded until week 7, so a lot of room still here to play. A lot of Pokemon we didn't even get to see on the field this time because each competitor could only bring in 6 of their 12 drafted Pokemon, so we will be very excited to see how this shakes out in the weeks to come. So, thank you so much, Boots, for sitting in with me this week. I greatly appreciate it. Always nice to sit down with an old friend and discuss Pokemon battling. Thank you all for joining us this week as we kicked off our retrospective look back at the inaugural season of the Little League, taking a closer look at this historic season. As always, I'm Tortimer the Great, and you guys have been great. For my co-host Boots, make sure you leave those likes, comments, subscriptions for you guys, and I will see you all back here next time. Alrighty, guys, have a good one.